Chapter 15. Granville's Gift. They turned to see the new arrival. "Father!" Draco gasped. Lucius Malfoy regarded him coldly. "No son of mine would consort with Aurors and Muggles. So that is what you are, no son of mine." "You're behind all this, Malfoy," Ron snarled. "Not behind all of it, sadly, but I am playing my part. Getting rid of Potter will make life easier for us all. It will make life sweeter for me." "You intimated Granville is to be a sacrifice?" Ambrose interjected. "The strongest old magic doesn't simply require a human sacrifice. It requires a willing human sacrifice. Granville was willing to use the magic on himself, even though he was aware it would kill someone who was already a wizard to receive the transformation. The ritual has been performed elsewhere. That amulet now has the power you were planning to make with it, or will have when your sacrifice is complete. Not that it matters. We don't need that hideous trinket." "It wouldn't kill me. Becoming a wizard wouldn't kill me. I'm a muggle. I was a muggle, so it made me a wizard," Granville protested. Lucius Malfoy shook his head. "You were a wizard already. We kept it secret. We even suppressed your innate magical abilities. We have dozens of young wizards and witches like you, who have no idea what they are. We can let them loose and tell everyone we are turning muggles into wizards." Granville was aghast. Lucius made a flicking movement with his wand, and Granville's wand fell to the floor. Granville glared at Lucius, his face a mask of horror. "Why?" "If the wizarding community thinks muggles have been turned into wizards, they'll be frightened," said Ron. "We've already heard rumours, and people are on edge. I'm guessing some evil git's going to step up and tell them that the only way is to take over the muggle world to stop them." "Someone will step up," Lucius confirmed. "I can't believe you're doing this again," Draco shouted. "You utter dick!" "Blood traitor," his father snarled. He nodded to one of the other Death Eaters, who stepped forward and retrieved Granville's wand. "You never needed to be able to turn muggles into wizards?" Ambrose asked. "Why on earth would I want anything to do with muggles?" Lucius Malfoy's voice dripped with disdain. "The idea was to create a rumour plausible enough to stir up our rightful feelings of superiority." Granville coughed again. It was a pitiful sound. "We never expected the boy to get such old magic to work," Lucius continued. "But now you, or your boss, have something that can make wizards," Ron pointed out. "We didn't need it as such, but we went along with the boy's work as it was useful to catch Potter. And now, as you see, it also helps us get rid of the boy," Lucius smirked. He looked to his two companions. "You have taken all their wands?" "Yes," one replied. "Draco's and the Aurors. We threw away upstairs. Potter's and the boys are here. We'll throw them away, back on the surface." "Well," Lucius concluded, "it is time for us to leave you. We will take the express lift back to the mine and destroy it behind us. You will stay here. You are miles underground. The door will be closed. You have no wands, and the boy is almost too weak to even cough. Never mind do anything useful." He sighed. "I would take you, Draco, but you've disappointed me once too often. I can't trust you. You'll have to stay here while you watch each other die." He turned to go, but stopped. "Say goodbye to Potter for me. Aloria will be so distraught not to watch this part of her plan go so well." Then the three of them stepped onto a green circular patch on the floor and were gone. A moment later, the green circle had gone too. Ambrose knelt beside Granville, who had slumped to the floor. He held the young man's head and stared into his eyes for a moment. "I am so sorry, Granville," he intoned. "People keep letting you down." "Granville," said Draco, People who have completed the ritual are said to be able to perform powerful magic, even without a wand, at least to start with. Have you tried healing yourself?" Granville seemed to rally marginally. He smiled at Ambrose. "That must only be muggles who the ritual has turned magical," he said. "I can't heal myself. I can't do anything without a wand. Can't even get us out of here." "There's so much magic here. We can't use any of it," Ron snarled. "We can't even release Harry." "He'll be released when the spell fades. It shouldn't be long now," Granville croaked. "I'm sorry. I was so stupid to trust Malfoy and Deloria. I got carried away with playing with stuff I didn't understand." "You did nothing wrong," Ambrose reassured him. "They manipulated you. At least this Aloria person did." "Aloria Rakison," Granville nodded. "She was behind it all." "There must be something we can do," Lydia pleaded. "Ron!" Draco said excitedly. "Don't always use replicating scrolls to keep in touch." Ron grimaced and bowed his head. "Yeah, sometimes," he confirmed. "But not this time. Kingsley was trying to keep everything under wraps." "There may be something," Granville said hoarsely. "I have the amulet. I know the ritual. I might be able to make one muggle magical. They can get you out without a wand." "Yes," said Lydia. "Uncle Ambrose." Ambrose was already shaking his head. "I have remarkably little to recommend me as a candidate," he said. "I have been in positions of power before, and let us say it did not suit me." He looked at each of them in turn as he spoke. Hermione spoke of those who nature makes magical as having an inherent level of restraint or self-discipline that many muggles lack. Of course, as we have seen recently, some wizards lack it as well. But in general, it seems to apply. I am not an inherently good or restrained person. It demands of me a great deal of effort." The mood of the group had taken a sombre turn. They glanced at each other in a kind of shared horror. "Thankfully," Ambrose resumed, "I am not the sole muggle amongst our party. The other is a much better person than I ever was." "Me?" said Lydia. "Isn't she too young?" Ron asked. "I think not," Ambrose frowned. "You were all showing magic by the time you were her age, and a newly created witch would have more power than usual." "Would you be willing to be a witch, Lydia?" Draco asked. "You could come to Hogwarts. We'll teach you how to use your magic well." Lydia's face was a picture of wonderment. "Can I?" she asked her uncle. "Given that the alternative was of a somewhat fatal nature for all concerned, I believe I could consent on your parents' behalf." "It would have to be on the condition that you get us out of here alive," he replied. "I think we would all be agreeable in that case." "Ambrose," Granville whispered. Ambrose held his hand to support him. "Quickly," Granville continued. "Put the amulet around her neck. I'll say the words. Pass me the grimoire." Draco retrieved an ancient tome from a small stone lectern to which Granville was pointing. The young man laboriously turned the pages, then began to read the runes. The language was unknown to any of the other wizards, but as Granville spoke, his voice became stronger, and the strange words took on an eerie resonance. A golden glow suffused the room. Lydia became a beacon of light. Within a minute, the incantation was complete. Granville slumped in Ambrose's arms. The glow around Lydia subsided. Ambrose bent his head low over Granville's pallid face. The others were crowding around Lydia, checking that she was all right. But as the egg faded from around him, Harry saw the young man's lips moving, and saw Ambrose nodding in reply. Granville made to cough, but lacked the energy. "Your mother is proud of you, Granville," Ambrose said to the young man, the boy, as Harry watched. Harry was unsure if those were the exact words, because he felt a flood of emotion welling up inside him. He had no idea where it came from. To his knowledge, he had just crawled through the gap under the stones in Carrowmore, and woken to find his friends with a young man who was clearly dying. Somewhere deep inside him, Harry felt a kinship with the boy, as though the boy had had to face his own Voldemort after the actions of others had fated him to do so. Harry shook his head. He couldn't possibly know that. Harry took a few shaky steps forward, moving closer to Ambrose and the young man. Granville's mouth started to smile, but then failed to go any further, ever again. Ambrose sat cradling the limp figure for a few moments more. He lowered Granville gently to the floor. A heavy-faced Ambrose looked up at the released Harry. For the first time, Harry saw him as an old man. "Welcome back, Harry. Are you well?" Ambrose asked. Harry nodded. "He made good on his willing sacrifice," Ambrose said in a cracked voice. The two men were standing together now. "I can tell," Harry replied. "There is magic here, so strong that, old magic or not, I couldn't miss it. Lydia. Is Lydia all right? Why are the others around her?" They walked the few paces to the rest of their group. Ambrose turned to Harry. "How does she seem to you, Harry?" "She seems to be fine, I'm glad to say." Then he frowned and leant in closer to her. The others looked round at him. "She has magic," he said. It was a simple statement, but he looked as though someone else had shouted it in his face as he took a step back. Harry gazed around at the others in turn. "She's a witch." Ambrose nodded. "We have Granville to thank for that. He transported you here and imprisoned you, but others were behind his misdemeanours. There had been a veritable coven of conspirators who had tricked Granville. They appeared here and relieved all the magical members of our troop of their wands, leaving us stranded. Their intention was, I'm afraid, that we should perish." Draco shifted uncomfortably and stepped forward. "It was my father, Harry. Sorry." "And some woman," Ron blurted out. "Aloria Rakison," Ambrose said. "Granville told me something of her. She persuaded him to capture you. There is more to tell, but it was he who released you, Harry. I am convinced he was truly sorry." "Did he manage to say anything about Lucius's conspiracy, or about this Aloria woman?" "That was Draco's father, am I correct?" "It was," Harry confirmed. Ambrose sighed. "Granville did not have a great deal of time or strength, Harry. I shall explain later, but he put the old magic to good use and made Lydia magical. His intention was that she could assist our escape. That was his last act of penitence. He trapped us, but he saved us." "Quite so. But for now we should attend to the matter of regaining our freedom. It is becoming rather torrid, and I am not sure that being several miles underground is a naturally tenable position for a gentle muggle such as myself." "We're underground." At this point the others burst into speech, welcoming Harry back into their midst and checking that he was unhurt. Then they noticed Granville. Lydia stepped out from between them, and they fell silent. She walked across to Ambrose, who nodded sadly, and took the amulet from around her neck. Lydia buried her face in her hands. "I think it best that Aura Potter take charge of this and the grimoire," said Ambrose, holding the amulet out. "It seems the diary and everything else was a trick to capture him. Lydia, Granville assured me that Tina is perfectly all right and has gone home to Slovakia." "Thanks," said Harry, taking the amulet. "Yes, I'm fine, everyone. I have a feeling that, whatever Lucius Malfoy says, others might decide they want this amulet after all. That amount of power is not something they would give up lightly. I think Lucius might regret leaving it." Ambrose wiped the sweat from his brow and bent to retrieve the grimoire from beside Granville. "I don't imagine Lucius will be returning. It would appear that whatever magic was holding this chamber together is fading, and it may soon collapse." It was becoming unbearably hot, and even as Ambrose stopped talking, a deep groaning came from the dome above their heads. "Can you get us out of here, Lydia?" Ambrose asked. She thought for a moment. "Yes. It's like Granville left me a plan of how to do it in my head. I'm expecting to get my own way a lot more in future as repayment, though. Her uncle smiled. Even more? Goodness me. Where would you like to go? Lydia asked. We have an opportunity to appear not to have survived. Element of surprise and all that, Ambrose noted. Grim old place, then, Harry said. We can lie low and plan our next move. Plus, if I don't go and see Ginny, there won't be much point in surviving this, just to have her kill me. True, said Ron, but first we need to go up to the door where we came in. Our wands are up there. Draco still looked traumatised by events. Lydia gathered the group around herself. She looked at Granville's silent figure. This is as good a resting place as any for him, her uncle assured her.